Hi, I'm Phil from Inspiration Marine with the Hanse agents for the UK. We're going to make a series of videos to help people understand the options available when they configure their new Hanse. The first one's going to be about the rig options, mainsail handling, head sails, downwind sails. Let's get on board and talk about those. So every Hanse ever made has been designed around easy sailing. So everything for the mainsail, jib and genoa lead back to the helm positions where the winches are. So you don't have to leave the cockpit to do anything with the sails, and indeed you don't really need to leave the helm position to do anything with the sails. The mainsail is either slab reefed, so a fully battened, horizontally battened sail that drops down into a lazy bag, much like the 410 over here with the grey sail bag. So you unzip the bag in that case, hoist the sail, and when you've finished, you lower it back into the bag and zip the bag up. The other option is in-mast furlings, where the sail furls on a tube into the mast. That's a vertically battened sail, so still battened, full height vertical battens, so you still get a positive roach on the leach of the sail. It's slightly smaller in sail area than the slab reefed sail, something between 5 and 10%. But in most cases, especially when you get to the bigger models, it's quite a lot easier to handle, especially if there's a bimini up, which makes reaching the bag to tuck the sail in to zip it up pretty difficult. Let's go a bit further forward and we'll talk about some more stuff. So on this 460 here, this is in-mast furling, and this is the manual in-mast furling solution. So inside the mast is a tube that needs to turn to wrap the sail into the mast. That tube can either be turned manually by turning this drum via these two lines here. These two lines here lead back to the winch in the cockpit, so it is a winch operated system, and if you have electric winches in the cockpit, that obviously makes that solution quite a lot better. The other way of doing the in-mast furling is to replace this manual winch drum with an electric motor that sits in the mast, and that leaves you with effectively buttons in the cockpit to furl in, furl out, and that does make life a great deal easier because you get to concentrate more on how the sail is furling. The next thing to talk about with the sails, and this is relevant for the main, the jib and the genoa, the other two head sails, is the sail cloth choice. So the standard sails are a Dacron sail, which is your typical white sail that you see. They're a cross-cut sail, which means that the panels are horizontal panels, and the shape in the sail is induced by the way the edges of those panels are cut, and when they're stitched together, they then induce the shape into the sail. The downside to a cross-cut sail is you only have, on a boat of this size, approximately 6 panels to help induce the shape. And the nature of the cross-cut of the panels means that you don't get a huge amount of control as the sailmaker as to exactly where the draft is in the sail. The upgraded sail is a cruising laminate sail, so it has a lot less stretch in it than Dacron by the nature of the cloth. And it's also a tri-radial cut sail, which means that the panels radiate from the 3 corners of the sail. There are a lot more panels, probably 10 times the number of panels, and therefore the sailmaker has a lot more control over where the draft is in the sail. The benefits of that are that the draft ends up further forward in the sail, and the lack of stretch in the cloth means that when a gust hits the sail, instead of the sail distorting and the boat heeling over, the lack of stretch and the fact that the draft will stay where it's meant to be means that the boat will sail a lot flatter. So they come in something called the performance pack, although you can pick them individually as well, the upgraded sails. They're as much for comfort and flat sailing as they are for performance. Up at the front of the boat, you've got your head sail options. So every Hanse ever made, ever, in the last 20 odd years, has come with a self-tacking jib as standard. That's always on the inner forestay and has this mechanism here on the track in front of the mast. So when the wind's coming over from where the camera is, the car is over on the starboard side. When you tack and the wind gets on the other side of the sail, this swaps side and sets on the new tack. You don't have to do anything in the cockpit to help that sail swap sides when you tack. It's a single sheet as well, which comes back onto the starboard side of the boat. So all you're doing, you're not tying up a winch or needing to release from one winch and load on the next winch when you tack, and therefore short-handed sailing is a doddle. It's a really important fact that the rig is designed around having a self-tacking jib, because obviously it's a smaller head sail than you might be used to. Therefore, the mast is set a little bit further back. The mainsail is bigger. Setting the mast further back means that the fore triangle is bigger, and therefore the self-tacking jib is bigger than it would be on a rig that isn't designed specifically for a self-tacking jib. This particular boat doesn't have it, but you can add a second forestay, which sits on that hang just in front of the self-tacking jib forestay. That's a permanently rigged stay, which is optional, and that hangs a 140% genoa off it. So your self-tacking jib is 95% of the fore triangle. The 140% reacher is all of the fore triangle and another 40% past it. The self-tacker and the genoa work really well together. So the genoa works nicely upwind up to about 8 knots of true wind. The self-tacker then takes over in higher winds. Off the wind, the genoa is lovely because of its shape and its slightly shallower leach angle, so it works better downwind. Ideally, you choose both the self-tacker and the genoa. It means you've got a full wind range of sails hoisted on the boat, permanently rigged, ready to unfurl or furl as you need them, depending on how the wind and the wind angles change. In some cases, people will want something for a dedicated downwind sail, like a Jenica or an asymmetric or a cruising chute. Those three things or three names are very broadly the same sail. They're not quite so easy to handle because although they can come on a furling system, they're not quite so practical to operate when you have the two forestays on the boat, because there isn't a huge amount of masthead space left. So normally a cruising chute or an asymmetric or a Jenica will be operated with a snuffer. As a couple, that's fine in light winds. In anything other than light winds and not congested waters, they're not the easiest thing to operate. So most of our owners will go with the mainsail handled how they see fit, the self-tacker and the big light wind genoa, and that gives three sails real easy to operate and shouldn't cause any trouble. How the head sails furl is a little bit like the in-mast furling. You have a choice of either manual furling, which is what this self-tacker is here, and this line, aka the furling line, goes back to the electric winch in the cockpit. You can opt to upgrade those furling drums to electric furlers for both the self-tacker and or the reaching genoa, which does make life very easy, and it's push-button sailing. The self-tacker really is not essential. The genoa is more beneficial to have that on the electric furler because it's a bigger sail. But again, they could both very comfortably be manually operated via taking the line back to the electric winch. I think that covers everything immediately for this video in terms of the main and the head sail options. So your standard main is a slab reefed main. You then choose a lazy bag for it to drop into. The option is to go for in-mast furling, which can either be manual or electric. When you get up to the head sails, your inner forestay, which has got the self-tacker, is standard. You do get to choose to have that on an electric furler if you want to. The other option is to have the second forestay, which is permanently rigged, again, either manual or electric, and that gives you the big 140% genoa. Thank you for watching.